Hello, and welcome to rePRO Film Festival by mamafilm. I'm Leila Med-O'Connor.
I'm Mallory Martin.
And I'm Debbie Samples.
As the founders of rePRO, we're honored to have spent the last 5 days with you at our inaugural film festival. We thank all of the people who have gathered together at the intersection of the reproductive rights movement, the artists and storytellers, the policymakers, the activists, and community advocates for conversations around topics that are central to healthcare inequalities.
Together, we need to have raw and truthful conversations about reproductive health issues experienced by 49.6% of the world's population. And we need to question why so many of our fundamental rights and freedoms are tied up in laws, policies, and politics. The world we live in right now is not the world we want for our daughters and sons to come of age in. We're not alone. They are not alone. We can teach them how to commune and communicate. We can equip them with the tools and resources that they'll need to navigate the world justly, with or without a uterus.
Without conversation, there can be no awareness. And without awareness, there will be no change. This village has the power to change the world. We're honored to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Kathleen Tarr, founder of the Played Symposium, who will talk about the imperative need for a representation of bodily autonomy in media, which makes a direct influence on public opinion and is also essential to our mission.
Welcome, viewers. I am Kathleen Tarr, founder of the Played Symposium on Equity in the Entertainment Industry and Awards, coming to you from the San Francisco Bay Area with gratitude to the Ohlone, the original inhabitants of this land. If you're anything like me, you were born, making you the perfect audience for mamafilm's rePRO. This final day of the festival screens films that explore reproductive choice. As an IUD baby, I am obviously the consequence of an unplanned pregnancy, but I am also a reminder for everyone who forgets that birth control is not 100% outside of abstinence, not even surgical sterilization, which, like the IUD, is more than 99% effective. But those statistics tend to get lost, the societal narrative preferring to believe that only those who don't take precautions find themselves having to choose whether to continue a pregnancy. The untruths get traction, in large part because of popular media. In fact, if we were to judge by the amount of sex on television, pregnancy after heterosexual intercourse is very rare indeed. In real life, a single act has a 1 in 20 chance of pregnancy. For character Elaine Bennis of Seinfeld fame, that means 1 month's worth of sex. Your actual numbers may vary. When I was a kid, I suspect media did convince me that pregnancy was rarer than it actually is. I also recall clearly my impression that when television characters actually did find themselves with an unwanted pregnancy, they would spontaneously miscarry, saving themselves from having to make a decision between abortion and childbirth. In season 2 of Party of 5, it was a main character, Julia Salinger, who found herself wrangling with the idea of an abortion before her uncertainty was abated by miscarriage, a plotline repeated in the film Citizen Ruth, which was released that same year. While even as a child, I suspected the miscarriage trope was a myth, popular media has a way of convincing us of facts not in evidence. Former Missouri Congressman Todd Akin in 2012 seemed to have succumbed to such falsehoods in claiming that abortions are almost always irrelevant for rape victims, thus justifying his co-sponsorship of the No Taxpayer Funding for Abortion Act. If it's legitimate rape, Akin said, the female body has ways to try to shut the whole thing down. It is this influence that makes theatrical depictions so important. Television and film haven't been absent characters who have abortions, but it certainly is not common and rarely without controversy. When in 1972, the lead character in the sitcom Maude chose an abortion, 24,000 letters of protest were received by CBS, and some affiliates refused to broadcast the 2-part episode, many others refusing the second airing, which nevertheless garnered 65 million viewers. 2 months later, in January 1973, the Supreme Court handed down its decision in Roe v. Wade, protecting the liberty to have an abortion without excessive restriction throughout the United States. Public opinion matters, and entertainment shapes that opinion. We wouldn't have that person in the White House otherwise. White evangelical Protestants' significant opposition to the right to choose is pivotal to his support. He wouldn't have the votes otherwise. Just as GLAAD's work that increased visibility of LGBT characters on television correlated with growing support for same-sex marriage, Widening national backing for the right to choose requires popular media address the issue with regularity. UCSF's 2018 Advancing New Standards in Reproductive Health identified 18 plot lines in which a character has an abortion, discloses a past abortion, or considers getting an abortion. 80% of those characters being either Black or biracial women. Although the season included a lower proportion of abortions obtained, disclosed, or considered than previous seasons, the higher proportion of disclosures of past abortions suggests a step toward incorporating abortion stories for television characters. Still, more than just conversation between characters is necessary. It was not until 2015, when Scandal's Olivia Pope had an abortion, that the depiction of the medical procedure was shown on screen. The same year, an article in the International Reproductive Health Journal, Contraception, reported in aggregate, televised abortion stories misrepresent the demographics of women obtaining abortion and the reasons for doing so. Overrepresented reasons being more often self-focused rather than other-focused, contributing to a perception that abortion is a want rather than a need. 1 in 4 people who will have an abortion before 45 years of age already have children. 1 in 10 are considered church women. While popular media depicts abortion as dangerous, it is in fact childbirth that kills 700 women every year in the United States, similar numbers as in the late 19th century. The statistical likelihood of dying from abortion? 0%. As the authors note, on-screen representations may influence public understandings, contributing to the production of abortion stigma and judgments about appropriate restrictions on abortion care. Understanding the particular shape of inaccuracies around abortion portrayals can enable advocates and healthcare practitioners to identify and respond to popular misperceptions. Although we thankfully this year saw a federal judge strike down Georgia's anti-abortion bill and the Supreme Court of the United States find Louisiana's Unsafe Abortion Protection Act unconstitutional, we are continuing to see efforts to legislate limits on access to abortion care in violation of Roe v. Wade. Abortion and the right to choose remain medical, social, and legal issues. But let me offer an overlooked political aspect I've argued for 30 years. Denying the right to choose means rejecting the major point of citizenship. According to the Independence Hall Association, governments are formed to provide the parameters for everyday behavior for citizens, protect them from outside interference, and often provide for their well-being and happiness. Government's goal of social cooperation concerns influencing behaviors of those who are actually here, something that only manifests if you have already been born. Regardless of your spiritual beliefs about when life begins, citizenship does not begin until birth. When my mother found herself pregnant with me, despite having used an IUD, it was her right as a citizen to decide what to do about her pregnancy. But that's an idea that won't get traction until it becomes popular, just as many human and civil rights languish under-supported until a critical mass is met. Here's where you come in. We have no choice about whether the entertainment industry influences our collective consciousness. We do have a choice in what consciousness is raised. The films you are about to watch all educate and enlighten, helping to usher in more acceptance about not only abortion, but also the complexity of reproductive decisions across the board. The next step is bringing all they offer to the mainstream. Enjoy the show.